When you decide to hand over your hard-earned money to a fund manager, you're placing an incredible amount of trust in them, right? But here's the thing. That trust isn't just a handshake and hoping for the best. It's actually built on a really solid, legally binding framework, a rulebook, if you will, that's designed from the ground up to protect you, the investor. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to pull back the curtain on that very framework. We'll break down everything from the master contracts that define your entire relationship all the way to the critical safeguards that keep your assets safe and sound. So let's dive in. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the legal documents that are the absolute foundation of your relationship with what's called a fund management company, or an FMC. You can really think of these as your personal rulebook. Now, at the very heart of all this is the Investment Management Agreements, or IMA. And trust me, this is not just fine print you skim over. It is the master blueprint for absolutely everything that follows. It's going to lay out your investment goals, your risk profile, the fees you're going to pay, basically the whole scope of what the manager will do for you. It's the constitution of your financial partnership. So if the IMA is the big picture constitution, then the investment mandate is the specific set of laws that brings it all to life. The IMA sets up the broad relationship, right? But the mandate, that gets into the real nitty-gritty. We're talking about exactly what assets can be bought, the allocation ranges, any restrictions, and of course, the benchmarks they'll use to measure success. One defines the partnership, the other directs the action. So we've got the contracts, we've got the rule book. But what's the ethical philosophy that's supposed to guide every single decision a fund manager makes? Well, this is where a really important legal duty comes into play, and it's known as the prudent investor rule. This rule establishes something called a fiduciary duty. Now, that might sound like a formal legal term, but it boils down to a simple, incredibly powerful idea. The manager must, by law, put your interests first. Always. No exceptions. That means they have a duty of loyalty and care. They have to diversify your investments to manage risk. They've got to be smart and conscious about costs, and just act prudently in every single thing they do for you. Okay, but how is this duty actually tested in the real world? I mean, it sounds great in theory. The ultimate test really comes when a manager's interests don't perfectly line up with yours. In other words, we're talking about managing conflicts of interest. And a classic example of this is a practice called soft dollar dealings. Let me break it down. An FMC sends a whole lot of trades to a specific broker. In return for all that business, the broker gives the FMC free stuff, like super expensive research reports or high-tech software. But here's the catch. The broker isn't paying for these perks out of their own pocket. They're paid for using the trading commissions generated from your money. The conflict is pretty obvious, right? Is the manager picking the broker who gets you the best price, or the one who gives them the best goodies? And this is exactly where regulators have to step in and draw a very clear line in the sand. They have a key rule. This kind of practice is only allowed if those goods and services provide a demonstrable benefit directly to the unit holders, and that's you, the investors in the fund. The benefit can't just be for the manager. It has to ultimately help your portfolio. It reinforces that idea that the client's interests have to come first, period. And don't make the mistake of thinking this is some rare back office deal. It's not. In major markets like the US and the UK, these soft dollar arrangements can account for a pretty big chunk. We're talking up to 20% of all institutional trading commissions. It's a widespread practice, which is exactly why the rules around it have to be so incredibly strict. Okay, so beyond all the rules and principles, the system has some really important structural safeguards built right in. These are the operational mechanisms designed to protect your actual assets and just make sure you always know what's going on. The single most important safeguard here is what's called asset segregation. Just look at this flow. You've got three distinct roles. First, there's you, the client. You are the owner of the assets. In the middle, you have the fund management company, making all the buy and sell decisions. But, and this is so crucial, a completely separate independent third party, the custodian, is the one that actually holds your assets. Just think of the custodian as a high-security bank vault. The FMC has the key to manage what's inside, but they can't just walk out with the money. It's a financial firewall that protects your capital. The other pillar of protection is transparency. I mean, it's not enough for your assets to just be safe. You have a right to know exactly what is being done with them. And this right is made official through mandatory record keeping and regular, detailed reporting. So what does that look like? Well, at a bare minimum, you should be getting a statement of your portfolio's position every single month. And then every quarter, you get a much deeper dive, a report on how your portfolio is performing against its benchmarks, and a really important update on any changes to risk. This regular communication, it's completely non-negotiable. It's what makes sure you always have a clear view of your finances and can hold your manager accountable. All right, let's just pull this all together for a quick recap. It all starts with a clear rulebook. That's your IMA mandate. This establishes that fiduciary duty which legally forces your manager to put you first. That duty gets tested in the real world with conflicts of interest like soft dollar deals, and that's why the regulations there are so strict. And through all, your assets are kept safe by that structural firewall, the independent custodian. See, understanding this framework really empowers you as an investor. It totally shifts the conversation from one that's based purely on trust to one that's based on rules, duties, and safeguards. So that leaves us with one final thought. Now that you know the rules of the game, what's the first question you're going to ask?